Well, big day on Tuesday, and apparently a lot of us got our I voted stickers because we were out there at the polls. And here to give us the Calhoun County perspective on all of that is our county clerk, Ann Norlander. Good morning, Ann.
Good morning.
So we've been hearing that across the state we broke some records. Do we see that played out in Calhoun County?
Well, we did. Generally speaking, in a presidential primary only occurs once every 4 years, and I think there's some confusion on with the voters as to exactly what it is compared to the general primary in August.
Right. I have my own story about that too.
Okay.
I went in and voted, and there were people behind me, and I got my sticker on my shirt, and I'm walking out the door, and the fella talking to the election worker says, "How come I can't vote for both?"
Right.
That's probably the confusion, right?
Well, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of people that do not wish to declare a party, whether they had to take a Republican or Democrat ballot. So that caused some irritation for some. But mostly we went into this well-prepared, very proactive, and our election commission met several months ago, to order ballots, which is our statutory duty. We take bids, and then we award the bid to the company that we feel can best represent Calhoun. And years ago, we had the foresight to train at that point with Gage Printing in Battle Creek to take the class to be able to prepare ballots in county. And that was one of the only companies that I know of in the state that is able to do that. We also have input when we do our election commission meetings, which are open to the public, to have the input of our city and township clerks. Mm-hmm. So we went with our local printer, and about last week at some point we felt that there was going to be a large turnout, so we had extra ballots printed, and so we were extremely well prepared for the 27.5% turnout, even though these are unofficial results.
All right. Yeah, there was a part of the state, wasn't here, somewhere else, where they ran out of ballots in the middle and people had to wait in line for an hour and had to wait for more to be printed. Boy, that would be quite a situation, wouldn't it?
Yes, and we were notified by the Bureau of Elections in an email approximately 10 days ago that this could happen, and to prepare for that. So we were very well prepared. Not only did they run out of ballots, but they told their citizens to go home and come back later, which is not the way you do it.
Yeah.
So
how is the way you do it? You make them wait.
Yes.
Okay. That's the way that works.
Well, yes, and hopefully everyone's prepared to do that. And obviously some weren't. Listening to the results, Kent County at 11 o'clock only had a 6% return rate, and Calhoun was in with over 96%. Our first ballots, our first results came in at 8:11, and they were on the web by 8:15.
Yeah, and the polls closed at 8.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So we're down to a fine-tuned machine, and Omer and Lee, Albion Township, Marengo, and Marshall Township all came in together, and then the next group of 16 cities and townships came in. So it was very good result. We always have glitches, like everyone. Our modem went down for a short period of time. Precinct 21 and Precinct 10 had a few issues. And if your books don't balance at the end of the evening, then you just are able to come into our office beginning today at 8 and visit with our election commission who certifies the results. We do not certify any election until all votes are accounted for.
We're talking with Calhoun County Clerk Ann Norlander, and we'll discuss that a little bit more coming up in just a minute on WBCK. Clerk Ann Norlander's on the line. We're talking about our primary this week and then what comes next. You talked about modems and that sort of thing. It used to be, even in the media, we used to gather and wait, and all of these things were somewhat manually done. And I would think with computers, you talked about results coming in 10 minutes after the polls closed. This thing gets done a lot sooner than it used to.
Well, it really does, and we were on the cutting edge with election magic, and other counties are now on that, and so we're able to produce the results in real time actually, and everyone can watch them come in, especially candidates, of course, that are
Sure.
concerned about their results. So in many regards, we have come so far. Poor Tom McHale, when he was at the radio station, would stay all night.
Yeah.
And we would be there all night too. And we finally just decided to bring sleeping bags and a toaster so that we could start fresh the next morning. But now it's a whole different story. And Calhoun County should be very proud of how we can deliver results accurately and make sure that everyone's vote is counted. But I really couldn't go on much further without thanking everyone that's involved, because as I've always said, elections just don't happen. And we began to prepare for this election months ago.
Mm-hmm.
And we have a wonderful election director in Terry Lowe, and our staff who all assist when necessary. We have 19 township clerks. We have 4 city clerks. And we have a multitude of election inspectors, and they should all be congratulated for their service to the county and to the citizens. So I would just like to send out a big thank you to everyone involved in this election. And as we speak, we have already prepared for the May election.
Mm-hmm.
And quite soon, we will begin to prepare for the August election. So
yeah, and we want to talk about that.
It's a big process. Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. You talked about a modem glitch for a few minutes there. I mean, I presume you have backup systems in the event that something does go wrong with the technology.
Well, we certainly do, and it was only down for a minute or so, so it was not anything, horrible.
Right. Yeah, but you've got some redundancies, and that's in place so that if it were longer than a minute, you can figure
Mm-hmm.
that out. Yeah.
And one other interesting thing about Calhoun County, we've always been called a bellwether county, meaning as Calhoun goes, so goes the state.
Yeah.
And we always have someone online throughout the evening with the Associated Press stringers that are assigned to Calhoun County. So when you see, someone declared a winner, it's because of the stringers that are in prime counties that they feel are indicative of who's going to win. And I was quite amazed to watch everyone waiting patiently for Wayne County to come in, when in fact the race was decided in Kent County. And it just seemed to me that the national news media didn't get this right at all, and it just kind of tickled me that they kept punching in Wayne County, and Kent County is almost as big as Wayne County now.
Yeah.
And those results were coming in very strongly for Bernie Sanders. So when it finally was called, it's because they got the Kent County votes in.
Yeah. I think there might be some a little bit of old school thinking there, focused on Detroit and the metro Detroit area. Yeah, that's an interesting thought. We're talking with Clerk Ann Norlander. She talked about May and August. We'll talk in a second what that's all about, and try to get ourselves focused on what that means as voters in just a minute. WBCK, Clerk Ann Norlander's with us, Calhoun County, talking about the election this week and, of course, what comes next, and we'll get to that here in a second. It is interesting that some folks, we understand the primary process, the presidential primary. You have to ask for the ballot, Republican, Democrat. But as you said, some folks just don't like that. I noticed in my polling place, I mean, if you were concerned about privacy, I guess you'd have to whisper it to the election worker, because it's just a couple of tables, and they say, okay, here's your Republican ballot, here's your Democrat ballot, and they say it. So it's out there. Are we going to get used to this or what?
Well, every 4 years we'll have to get used to it.
Yeah.
When we just a couple other tidbits about the election that were reported to our office. There were many first-time voters.
Oh.
Many young voters. The lines were steady all day, and we'll be canvassing probably through at least the next couple days. So I think we've never seen anything quite like this presidential race that we're experiencing right now.
Yeah.
It's in many regards embarrassing and many regards energizing for getting younger voters out and first-time voters. For the first time, people are voicing their concerns that they're not real happy with how government works.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's the bright side of this is that more of us are motivated.
I think that's excellent, and I think if nothing else, throughout this whole all the shenanigans that are going on, that is a positive. We have energized people that have never voted in a presidential primary or registered to vote, period.
Mm-hmm.
So that is good.
So
Very
you
good.
talked about May and you talked about August. What's next?
Mm-hmm. Well, May is the big issue on the May ballot, along with other proposals, would be the merger of Albion and Marshall schools.
Mm-hmm.
And those that are able to vote in that election are anyone that lives in the Albion school district. So that's been a question that our office has received, and I just wanted to clarify that.
Okay.
Let's move on to the presidential primary.
Yeah.
Okay. That will be on August 2nd, and that is a process of nominating candidates to go on to the November ballot. It's a nominating process. And guess what? We also have precinct delegates. Mm-hmm. And precinct delegates are those that want to represent their respective parties and be able to attend state conventions and possibly even go on to the national convention. So they will be on the ballot, and those precinct delegates can register up until Election Day, and they will be counted in the polls. So they don't come to our office. So there'll be a little bit of a possible lag time on August 2nd.
So is that one ballot then? We don't have to ask for one or another?
No, just one.
Mm-hmm. And on that ballot then is going to be a choice between the two nominees, right? The Republican presidential nominee. No, it's only delegates. It's countywide officials, township officials, judicial. Any proposals that want to go, the president and vice president will be selected at the national conventions between now and November, and whoever are our candidates, their names will appear on the November ballot, but not the August ballot. Got it. Good. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I bring that up because some others might be confused by that. So, yes, so that's the way August will work out, and then November comes. That's the biggie.
Right, and those nominated in August, whether it's for a countywide office, a township, a library board, a judicial position, they will all be decided in November. And out of our 9 our 9 judges in Calhoun County, 7 will be on the ballot.
Mm-hmm. All right.
That's very unusual.
Yeah, that's going to be obviously more of a local focus at that point. And then we move forward.
And then there's no more straight party voting either. So everyone's going to have to complete the entire ballot rather than just fill in the arrow Republican or Democrat.
And that made a lot of news recently, but by the time we get there, maybe folks won't be remembering that. You're going to have to know your candidates' names and make sure you're hitting the right circle.
And turn your ballot over and vote for the proposals and for the judicial races or whoever is on the back of the ballot. So it really, really pays to do your homework before you get there so that you have some, we're not holding up lines, number one, and there will be a ballot posted on the wall for the citizens to review before they get in line.
Okay, and you can see that online, too, ahead of time, right?
You can see anything you want to know, any history, anything by going to co.calhoun.mi.us and go to elections, and we have archives of all the elections, the turnout, everything you want to know. It's a great website.
All right, Ann, thank you very much. I'm sure we'll talk again before all of these other events, but it was good to get your thoughts on what's going on this week. Thank you.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Ann Norlander, clerk in Calhoun County.